Hi, happy Victory Thursday. I don't normally dedicate an entire week to a victory, but after one that we saw on Sunday with the San Francisco 49ers, I'm still on cloud nine, or should I say cloud 49? Anyway, I'm Sally. I am the host of Skoldiers Spice. I am the newest family member of the Vikings First and SKOL network, and I am honored to be here. This is my fourth official episode, but my third on YouTube, and I've just been having a ton of fun. You guys have been giving me some great feedback, and I love it. It's been such a great time, and I can't wait to keep building on this. But today, I am joined by my favorite media member, and I can't wait to hear what he thinks about what the Vikings have done thus far, where they're going, and walk down memory lane a little bit.
Hey man, how the hell you doing? I've been just fine living life with the news and...
Hi, everyone. Here I am with Jon Krawczynski of The Athletic. Hi, John.
What's up, Sal? How's it going?
Uh, Super good. Like I said, can't complain. Still on cloud 49 here, and really looking forward to what's going on the rest of the season.
Man,
But
2-0 start. You got to be feeling really good. I mean, the most fun are the unexpected ones. So I'm glad you're enjoying it.
exactly, that's what I was saying yesterday. It's so much better when your expectations are low and then they're exceeded, rather than the opposite way. Like I see a lot of Lions having meltdowns right now over one loss, but I can relate to that. That was me in 2010, thinking, oh my God, we're repeating this again. It's so easy to do. And as we know, that was an epic fail. But yeah, it's just so much better when it goes this way.
For sure. I mean, like I think that a lot of fans put pressure on themselves as much as anything else when you're starting a season and you get such high hopes. And then, I mean, I think I was maybe a little bit more on the pessimistic side coming into this one, just with all of the unknowns, and to see the way that it has played out is kind of it's surprising in the best of ways, I think, for fans. And so those are always just the most fun, is like when it comes out of nowhere and now the momentum builds a little bit, and you got a big game this weekend, and see how they can keep going with it.
Yeah, totally. I've already had people in my mentions trying to call me out for saying this wasn't a playoff team and all of that. Like, listen, it's only week two, but even if it wasn't, there is nothing I enjoy more than being wrong about the Vikings. I will
Mhm.
always fess up to that. That's the best type of wrong to be. So, um, anyway, okay, so I think most people know you as a Timberwolves guy, but you've actually been following the Vikings for a long time, right? Not
Yeah,
to say you're old.
I actually, yeah, yeah. No, I'm getting old is the thing, and so my first sort of professional break was covering the Vikings in 1999 when I was still in college. And so I had an internship with the Fargo newspaper, and then I was coming back to the Twin Cities for college for my junior year, and they said, "Hey, do you want to write about the Vikings a little bit for us too?" And I said, "Yeah, absolutely." So it's actually the Vikings are the team that I've been around as a media member the longest, and certainly growing up here, grew up a Vikings fan and everything. But yeah, as much as I've kind of gravitated a little bit more to the NBA and to the Wolves, certainly still really enjoy covering the Vikings, and they are the big show in town. So if you want to be a media member and be a little relevant, you better have some purple to cover. So I really enjoy doing that, teaming it up with Alec Lewis at The Athletic.
Well, I don't know. I think the tides may be turning a little bit there. Those Timberwolves media passes are becoming hard to come by. So,
Yep. Yep. It's after 20 years of being in the gutter, it's kind of nice to be on the other side of it.
yes, definitely. Well, I appreciate you. You've always been one of my biggest hype men, which means so much to me. So I'm so happy that I can have you on, especially episode 4. It's a big deal.
Big time. Big time. No, I'm happy for you. This is an awesome break for you. You deserve it. And so I'm just honored to be a guest.
All right, well, let's get into it. So, excuse me. See, now you got me all worked up. I can't talk. So, how surprised are you in general with this team? What was your prediction going in, kind of win loss record?
Yeah, I think I said at the start I thought it was 6 wins, 7 wins tops is kind of the range that I was in. Um, it was more so about not necessarily not believing in the team, but more so about I didn't know what Sam Darnold was going to be capable of. I also thought that the division was going to be just really challenging. After years of really kind of being able to rely on at least 3 wins against the Lions and Bears, I thought that that was not a given this coming into this season with the way that the improvements have been made on the other squads. And so I certainly was kind of coming into this. You see all the injuries, you see some of the things that they'd had to deal with, and then some of the unknowns. And it was just like, yeah, maybe it is a 6 win team, maybe it's a 7 win team, and that's it. Now, I didn't change any of those expectations coming off of the Giants win because I just think the Giants are terrible, and I didn't know what to really make of that. But when you look at the way that they performed against San Francisco, against one of the best teams in the NFC, and really kind of controlled that game. Was it not for the Aaron Jones fumble, they're winning that thing easily. And so that did change my outlook. At least it says, I'm not saying book your Super Bowl tickets just yet, but I do think that I look at this team now as one that I would think should be in the playoff conversation for much of the year if they can keep building on these first 2 games. I mean, the defense looks great. Sam Darnold looks really good. They can stay healthy and get lucky with, get Jefferson back and stuff. I think that they are looking well coached and just it's like all the pieces are fitting together very well. And so now I'm definitely a lot more optimistic about their chances of being relevant all year long.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I also said the 6 to 7 wins, and I wasn't going to be upset with that because I saw this as this is the year they're going to grow. We're going to discover a lot about them, and that's totally fine to have this growing period. So I've been shocked, as I think many people have, by how they performed on Sunday. And now I don't know. I don't think I've ever seen in the history of sports in general like a bigger week 2 shift in the opinion of a team because now, yeah, we are all like, well, obviously the Bears aren't doing great. The Lions, I mean, I think they'll probably figure it out, but right now things aren't really vibing over there, and we don't know what's up with Jordan Love and Malik Willis and how all that's going to play out. But I will say, I'm looking forward to going to Lambeau a lot more now than I was even a week ago. So, um, yeah. Okay. So who though out of this team and what part would you say has impressed you the most?
Yeah, I mean, I think too. I think the defensive line has been kind of a revelation because you lose Daniil Hunter, you give some money to Jonathan Grenard, you bring in Van Ginkel, you draft Dallas Turner, so they've invested in it, but it didn't seem like a group that had that Micah Parsons, Daniil Hunter, big time star pass rusher. So it was how are they going to really kind of create enough pressure on the quarterback to help a secondary that was a little suspect, especially on the outside before they brought in Gilmore. And so to see how deep they are at defensive line, with not just Van Ginkel and Grenard, but Patrick Jones looks great. And Turner has had his moments as well. And it looks like they just have a bunch of different dudes that can kind of come in and play at a high level and then spell each other so they don't get worn out as the game goes on. They can kind of maintain their pressure on the quarterback because they're not tired from playing every single snap. So that's really, really impressed me a lot. And then I do think, I mean, how can you not be impressed with Sam Darnold? Not just like running the show, but making big throws in big situations. And we've seen a lot, I think, early on around the league of quarterbacks really kind of more dinking and dunking, not going down the field as much. And Darnold's just ripping 97-yard touchdowns and hitting Jalen Naylor down the seam. and you're like, holy cow, man, like this guy is legitimately talented and has a good feel for this offense. So, that's I just think that those two things really, if they can be sustained, I think then you're looking at, hey, this is a team that can actually do some damage.
Yeah, I think it said a lot when Deebo Samuel came out. I don't know if it was yesterday or the day before, and said we were trying to find the right
Mm-hmm.
calls to play, but with the defense that they have, it was hard to figure out what they were doing. And it seems like that's what the Giants were saying, and what people were saying in preseason is they've never. Well, even Cam Bynum, I heard on Barrero's show say that what they're doing, they don't even really know if it's a defense. It's something they've never seen before. They've never executed before, and I know that we knew B-Flow was a genius and that he was going to have a better year with it being year 3 and more of his guys that fit his scheme. But it seems like it's just on another level than we could have even imagined it to be. And those position line that you mentioned, the D line and the secondary, we thought that those were big weaknesses. Obviously, it got better when they signed Gilmore, but it was kind of like, who's going to be out there? Duke Shelley, like for real? Like, is this what we're going to do?
Your guy.
Uh,
Yeah.
he was my guy, but he unfollowed me.
Ah, dang it.
So he's dead to me now. He's
It was a
dead to
good
me now.
run.
I mean, I don't understand it. I saw some like wacko video retweeted onto my timeline that was way out there, politically, like way out there. And I'm like, Duke Shelley's retweeting this. So I went to his page and I saw he unfollowed me, and I'm like, really?
Mm.
Like all this time he's been like, thank you for running a Stan account. This means so much to me. Who in the history of the world out there has a custom Duke Shelley t-shirt?
I bet his mom doesn't even have one.
I agree. I bet no one has one. I made this man friendship bracelets. It's just like, it's the audacity. It's like, I get it. You got traded, but you're going to unfollow me, man? I thought we were cool.
Yeah.
Anyway, but so no, he's dead to me now. So we can roast him whenever we want to. But yeah. And then, to go on that, Sam Darnold, I don't know if anybody could have ever pictured this from him, especially this early in the season. I could see him maybe hitting his stride later on, but to that 97-yard ball, I mean, I think I've watched it like 400 times at this point. It's unbelievable. And just to see the way that he's walking, he's strutting into the locker room. It looks like he feels like he's the man, and his teammates certainly think that he is. So I don't know. I love this. I love a rejuvenated quarterback. You know that. So
it does have a
it's
little bit of Case Keenum vibes, Sal. Like, just, I mean, you said it. Like, I think you made a great point of like when you see the video after the game in the locker room and the guys really rallying around him, like they all know the narrative with Sam, that he's kind of been kicked around a little bit, that labeled a bust, all those things. And I do think that there are guys who look at that and say, no, this guy's really talented and he hasn't had a real shot. He hasn't had good coaches, hasn't had good teammates around him, and he hasn't gotten a fair shake. And so when someone like that kind of steps in and have some success, I think it kind of builds even more of a cocoon around him. And you saw it, same thing with Case. Like when Case came in, like all those guys knew that this was a journeyman kind of backup, but the way that he handled himself, and then I think that the way that they both sort of just cut it loose, like throw it down the field, man, take some chances, believe in your teammates. I think then that brings belief back to them, and so that's a powerful thing for the Vikings right now, and I think they can keep riding that.
Yeah, it's those intangible things that I think mean so much at the end of the day, especially for the quarterback position. And even going back further than that, Randall Cunningham and Gus Frerotte, these guys that everybody thought was washed and done, that came into the Vikings and had some great seasons. So I feel like he's going to be able to keep this up. All right. I hate this question. I hate that I'm about to ask you, especially in week 2. I think it's ridiculous, but I keep seeing people debate it all over the timeline on every podcast. So I'm going to ask you because I obviously trust your opinion more than anyone else's. So, but if this season ends with Sam Darnold holding an MVP trophy, what does 2025 look like?
Yeah, I Barrero asked me this too at the fair, and what I said is like, look, if they go to the Super Bowl and Sam Darnold is a major part of that, he's an MVP. Like you keep him and you figure out the rest later. If he emerges as the quarterback who is able to deliver what Vikings fans have wanted forever and ever, end this long men's sporting championship drought in Minnesota, with the most popular team in Minnesota, if all that happens and Darnold is like a front and center factor in it, it's not like a Trent Dilfer being carried by the Ravens defense type of thing. Yeah, you sign him, and you deal with the JJ McCarthy ramifications down the road a little bit. They have been searching for their franchise quarterback for a long, long time. I think they all believe that they have JJ McCarthy, that he can be the guy. And I believe that as well. But if Darnold sort of comes out of nowhere and shows you that he is that guy, I don't see how you could walk away from him. And even though you really liked what you saw from JJ in the preseason and all of that, can you really like afford to bet on, yeah, we think this
Hmm.
next guy is going to be the dude? Because Sam Darnold's still young. Like this is not a 32-year-old kind of holding on to his career. He's still a young guy that could have a lot of good years left in him. You'd probably want to be a little careful with the contract and how you structure it, and like in terms of putting too many eggs in the basket. But I just think that, yeah, if he's the MVP of the league, if the Vikings are
Yeah.
even just in the Super Bowl, like that's just you just do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think a little cart before the horse right now. Like let's just see what happens against Houston in week 3, huh?
I totally agree. I mean, that's a lot of ifs there. And if it were to happen, it's a great problem to have.
Exactly.
We need to figure it out right now or in 2 months or 3 months. If that ends up being the case, it's a great problem to have. So I really hate the conversation, but I had to ask because it's the buzz conversation around town. But all right, let's move on to the Texans. If you're just checking in, this is Sal Spice with Skoldiers and Spice. Vikings First and SKOL Network. Please subscribe and give it a like as well. But very honored to be here on Vikings First and SKOL. All right, Texans. Okay, let's go. So we have quite a few storylines here going into this game. The Texans, we know they're good. They have been labeled a sneaky Super Bowl pick by a lot of people. They've been, the cute one to go for, and they've looked good. They had some issues against the Bears, but I don't know. Everybody has some rust week 1, right? Like I think that they're pretty good, and everyone thinks that they're legit also. So we got a few storylines. We've got the biggest one of them being 2 members of the Vikings 2015 draft class returning to US Bank Stadium for the first time. We have Blake Cashman and Jonathan Grenard facing off against their former team for the first time. And then we got Justin Jefferson and his LSU teammate, Derek Stingley Jr., going to be working each other. So there's a lot to go. There's a lot to look at this game. It's not going to be boring, that's for sure. So, all right. The biggest name being Stephon Diggs,
Mhm.
5 years with the Vikings. What was one of your favorite memories following Stephon Diggs? Because we all know big personality, gargantuous guy, loves the spotlight. You've got to have a couple good stories about him.
Yeah, I mean, like, what I enjoyed this. Like, some people were annoyed by Stephon Diggs, kind of with the way that he sort of went about things in the locker room and stuff. But I enjoyed it because he clearly played games with the media. Like he said things, and he would always kind of look out the side of his, give you a sideways glance when he's giving you some kind of weird answer. He'd give you a little, sneaky little smile that's like, I'm messing with you. Like this is fun and games to me. And so like I enjoyed that. I remember like there was one time where it was kind of getting into the ugly part of his tenure here, and he was agitating to get out and missed a practice. And he comes up after, the next time he was available. Hey, Stephon, what happened? And he said, "Oh, I'm sick." And and just like the fakest cough of all time. And it was like, people got mad because he was like this diva, and how could you do this?
Mhm.
And I mean, especially in kind of the regime that was presiding over that, they did not kind of take kindly to that. But I couldn't do anything but laugh at it. It's just like, this is a guy that is not at all taking any of this seriously, and maybe fans really want to see, like, grinding all the time, and I live, eat, and breathe this. And Diggs was just like so funny in just terms of the way that he was not scared at all about looking silly or about playing games or making fool. So I enjoyed that. Though I really enjoyed when Brian Robinson did the, kind of go around the locker room asking
Yeah.
everyone who they would not let their sister date, and almost every single one said Diggs. So
Yeah.
those were, those were kind of the things that really kind of etched out that, okay, this guy's, he's a real personality. Because I remember, Sal, when he first kind of came onto the scene and he was a rookie, not many people knew about him. One thing that you heard early on, while he was like kicking everyone's ass in practice, was that he was like just a super hard worker, like in a full
Mhm.
sweat before practice even started, super competitive, got after people, and then really did. I mean, let's face it, he turned himself into a great player.
Yeah.
And one of the most memorable plays in the NFL history, and all of those things. But yeah, I just kind of remember the most. I know people get upset with him in the way that it ended, but I just like, I didn't take it too seriously. Like, I laughed right with him because he was clearly trying to agitate and play games, and it was just like, it was good fun for me.
Yeah, I'm totally with you on that. I've read tweets about people are planning to boo him on Sunday. And I just think it's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, for one, he gave you one of the best memories that you maybe possibly will ever have. I don't like for me, every time I watch that video still and you see his reaction in the end zone and how he's crying and he's choked up and he can't even talk on his interview, that gives you chills every single time. Like how can you be mad at that guy? And not to mention him forcing his way out gave you Justin Jefferson.
Exactly.
You should be grateful to him. I mean, it was a win on both ends. I think we actually won a little bit more with having Justin
Mhm.
Jefferson than the Bills did. I don't know why people are still holding on to this. I never really, I mean, I get it, as Minnesotans, people, they're a little bit more sensitive. People get butthurt about things that I don't know, maybe I wouldn't, but I understood it. He's not having fun here. He doesn't vibe with Kirk. He it's his legacy to get as many yards and stats as he can. He doesn't feel like he's getting them here. He wants to move on. It worked out for everyone. Like it wasn't anything personal about Minnesota or the state of Minnesota. It's about his career and his legacy. And we
Yeah,
know wide
yeah.
receivers like
Right, totally, Sal. To carry on your point, which is a good one, is what a lot of Vikings fans, especially in that moment, didn't want to admit was Diggs was largely right for
yeah,
wanting to get out. Like, the Zimmer-led offense was not going to work. Like, they were changing offensive coordinators every year. Um, Players were generally miserable playing for him. And yet then you had kind of Kirk as this sort of unknown. And I really think, maybe part of it was when Jefferson arrived, but I thought Kirk really improved his overall kind of grip of the locker room and his leadership and all those things after Diggs was gone and Jefferson came in. But while in those early days of Kirk Cousins there, it was shaky. Like, he was having a hard time leading this group and like finding his own voice and not being kind of viewed as disingenuous and things like that. And so Diggs looked at a coach that didn't know what he was really doing with the offense, um, at a revolving door at offensive coordinator, at a quarterback that was kind of unproven and making a ton of money. And he said, this isn't going to work long term for me. I've got to get out of here. And so he made that happen. And um, he is absolutely a diva wide receiver. He went to Buffalo, he put up some big numbers, but then they were kind of happy to see him go. He'll be probably on his best behavior in Houston for a little while, and then if it doesn't go right, he'll agitate. But he's incredibly talented. He kind of made his own career out of nothing, out of no expectations, and that Minneapolis Miracle, the thing that he delivered was something that you'll tell your grandkids about, something that long after we're gone, they'll replay that play when, my grandkids are getting older and having their own kids. Like, that's just like, that's the gift that he gave. So like, I just can't be mad at that. I just cannot be mad at it.
No. And we obviously all forgave Randy for similar diva-like
Yes.
behavior. No one ever
Correct.
brings that up anymore. So
Mhm.
I don't know. And I also think people don't appreciate enough. We all talk about the Minneapolis Miracle, but the Vikings would not have won their very first game at US Bank Stadium against the Packers without Stephon Diggs. It was
Mhm.
Sam Bradford's first game, and he had 182 yards in that
Mhm.
game off of 8 catches. So to me, he can do whatever he wants after that. If we would have lost that game, not only would it be mortifying, but our stadium would have been cursed for eternity. Could you imagine if the Packers got the first ever win in our new stadium? So for that, I'm forever grateful to Stephon Diggs.
Absolutely.
But okay, then we got Danielle Hunter, 8 years with the Vikings. Definitely a completely different departure than Stephon had. Not as big of a personality, obviously, but do you have any favorite Daniil memories?
I guess what I enjoyed about Daniil, he clearly, unlike Diggs, he wanted nothing to do with the media. He didn't. He was very quiet. He just wanted to go to work, do his, go about his business. He did not like talking about himself. He was not a self promoter, anything like that. But what I did notice, sort of as he kind of grew in the organization and got to be one of the longer tenured players and became a leader on the defense, he did understand that, okay, I have to at least have some kind of a role as a voice and speak for some of these guys. And he really made efforts to do that and kind of do something that was uncomfortable for him in that way. I do think that because he was so quiet, that actually I think he's underrated as just a player, in Vikings lore, in the NFL,
Mhm.
all those things. I just, he was so super consistent with his production. And he was like, he's the quintessential quiet giant, just this enormous, you know, specimen carved from granite, but just quiet and off the field, just does not want any attention. But yes, as he got to be a veteran in that locker room and they needed him, he was more willing to be a voice with the media and all of that, and I respected that because I just knew it wasn't natural for him. And
Yeah.
so in terms of, just his production, but then also the way that he grew and matured as a player and a person, you know, couldn't even think of one bad thing to say about Danielle Hunter. Went through all the injury stuff, kind of
Yeah.
persevered through that, and now he's making a real impact for Houston. So, just a quality dude, man, and a really really good player.
Yeah, I noticed in the last couple of years too that he was being more vocal, and it was at first it was kind of it was like, really, because you just never heard him talk ever,
Mm-hmm.
and so that really did show how much he cared about being a leader for the team and everything. And he also took some contracts that were very team friendly and more
Yes.
than one. I
Mm-hmm.
think maybe times
Mm-hmm.
instead of where he could have went elsewhere and got a longer term deal. He was coming off injuries, so maybe the money wouldn't have been what he would want it to be. But he was very loyal, I think, to this organization as well. When he could have went elsewhere a few times, but. And this is my favorite Danielle Hunter memory. This is taken from his Snapchat in December of 2016. This is after a loss against the Packers. I believe it was a night game. Oh, actually, it was a mid-afternoon game, I believe, and it was a 38-25 loss. Bad weather, 2 days before Christmas, and he has this post on his Snapchat. And as we were just saying, Danielle Hunter's not a guy that really puts himself out there. He doesn't really talk a lot of smack. And I see this Snapchat from him. Being trapped on this flight is still more exciting than being in Wisconsin. And I just died. It brought me so much joy after the loss. Not that all of them are stuck on the flight. Like, they want to get home. It's all 2 days before Christmas, but that he just didn't miss an opportunity to rip Wisconsin. I mean, how bad is Wisconsin if it's better to be stuck on a flight in Appleton, you know? So I really appreciated that. And it made me laugh after a win that kind of, could have taken the wind out of the sails of the Christmas Eve. I just kept bringing this up, and it made me smile. So thanks, Danielle, for that. Yeah, excited to see him. I think that Stefan will be emotional, though. I think that this is the type of game that Stefan is really going to want to show off for, and I think it'll be entertaining. It'll be entertaining if he has success, and it'll be entertaining if he doesn't have success. So, okay, but with the other two,
No doubt, yeah, he's gonna come out.
Yeah, I think so. I think he's been getting knocked a little bit for not making as much of an impact as he should have already. He might be saving it for this game. I hope not for our sake, but I think he's going to be on another level. And then, like I said, we've got Blake Cashman and Jonathan Grenard facing the Texans for the first time. I'm not super familiar with these guys, so I don't know if they have beef with the Texans or not. It seems like they just kind of decided, to part ways. They didn't want to pay their money or whatever. So how much of an impact do you think that has on guys like them?
Yeah, I don't think that it's a personal vendetta. But I do think that, man, what a revelation Blake Cashman has been early on with the Vikings. I mean, when you look at, he was as good as Fred Warner was in the San Francisco game, and Fred Warner is the best in the world at the position. So the way that Cashman has kind of stepped in right away and given them a playmaker at linebacker to go right next to Pace, I think is really big. I didn't, when they first signed Cashman, I was like, that's a nice signing, Minnesota boy coming home and all that, but I didn't really know what to expect production wise. And man, he's been phenomenal. So having him, just in this defense is going to be a huge thing for them on Sunday against one of the best teams in the FC.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. He's completely caught everybody by surprise. I think we did not expect him to be making this much of an impact this early. All right, last storyline we got is Jefferson against Stingley Jr. facing off, I believe, for the first time since college. I know Justin has said that he's going to make sure that he's back for this game because it's so important to him to play against him. How do you think that's going to go? I think it's going to get maybe a little chippy. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, I just hope that Jefferson is fairly healthy because, I do think it's easy to discount and dismiss it's called a thigh bruise, but those things are really painful and they can take a while to heal. And he's been limited in practice and things like that this week so far. So we'll have to see just like how close to 100% he is. But it's certainly an unbelievable matchup. I mean, Stingley is super aggressive. Really wants to be confrontational and get in your face and play physically as a corner. And Justin Jefferson loves that. And he's going to want to battle. And so I would not be surprised at all if there's some kind of back and forth little, bleep talking and there's definitely bragging rights on the line right now. They're two proud LSU dudes. And I think that, what I'll be interested in is just to see like, how much will Stingley follow him around the field? I don't know exactly what the Texans do defensively that way in terms of matchups, but every time that Stingley lines up on Jefferson, it'll be kind of similar to, I remember last year when it was the Jets and Sauce Gardner getting a lot of Jefferson. Like, you just look forward to those one-on-one matchups and to see how they fare. And so it'll be a good one for sure. And I'm sure there's going to be a little bit extra sauce kind of on it, as they go at each other.
Yeah, it's gonna be an exciting game, I think. How are you feeling about the outcome of the game? How are you feeling?
Yeah,
Vikes,
I think
Texans.
I think like when the season started, I looked at it and been like, that's probably a loss. But now I like the W for the Vikings because I think especially the Texans are kind of banged up. Nico Collins is banged up. Joe Mixon, they've got a few injuries they're dealing with, and then I think that the win against the Niners has really changed my outlook on what this team can do. And so I haven't made an official prediction on the Athletic yet, but I'm sure that it'll probably be, I'll probably take Vikings 27-23, somewhere in there. I think is kind of what I'm feeling. Maybe it'll be a little lower scoring. I'm not sure, but I like the Vikings to win this one.
Yeah, I'm with you. I definitely think I saw at least like 4 out of 5 of these first games as losses because it started really, really tough. But I certainly have way more confidence now. I can see it going either way. We've seen Vikings teams in the past, though, have these huge victories, and they're celebrating and they're so excited, and then they come out flat. I don't see that coming from this team. I feel like this team is coached completely differently than those teams that we've seen in the past, and they seem so happy and so excited, and they love this bulletin board material that they're receiving, that nobody takes them seriously, and they're underdogs at home. And I don't think we're going to see them come out flat like we maybe have PTSD from some of those teams in the past. But okay, Jon, thank you so much for joining me. I'm going to give a plug really quick to Broken Clock Brewery, which is in your neck of the woods in Northeast Minneapolis. They are having their biggest event of the year, Clocktoberfest, which is their spin on Oktoberfest. But they are one of my most important rescue partners for Underdog Rescue. I'll be there from 2 to 4 o'clock with some adoptable dogs. So if you are interested, you can check out their Facebook page and see which dogs are going to be there. Or if you ever have any questions about rescue or fostering, please, please, please message me. It's so very important. But okay, thank you, Jon. This has been Skoldiers Spice, Vikings First and SKOL. And go Vikings.
Like, subscribe, and ring the bell. And rate us on your favorite aggregator. And a big shout out goes to Sal and her guests on this Vikings First and SKOL production, partnered with the Fans First Sports Network. Thanks, everyone, and SKOL.